Hello everyone, and welcome to the Storyist. Today, I will tell you a story about an angry passenger who was screaming at a woman at the airport check-in until she said something to him that instantly shut him up. Keep watching until the end of the video to find out what she said and why it left the angry passenger in tears. Our story today begins early in the morning at a crowded airport. There was one passenger in particular who was being loud and difficult the whole way. The loud passenger was a middle-aged man in a nice business suit, and he seemed to be in quite a hurry. After loudly complaining to himself about the length of the check-in line, he finally made it to the counter and hoisted his luggage up onto the scale. "Here," he said hurriedly to the woman working the counter as he shoved his ticket at her. "Can you make it snappy? I've about had it with this wait. It's very important that I make it to my flight on time, and I still have to wait at security too. That line is probably going to take even longer than this one." The woman at the counter forced a smile. "Let's take a look and get you checked in." She was used to dealing with upset and impatient passengers, but this man was being even more rude than what she was used to. She took his ticket, scanned it into her computer, and looked over his flight information. She quickly realized that she had bad news to tell them. "I'm sorry, sir," she said with a slight frown, "but it looks like this flight was canceled at the last minute. I'll have to put you on another plane with a connecting flight." She pressed a few more buttons on her keyboard. "I can get you on this flight here, but it will be about a 5-hour delay from your original flight." The man just stared at her for a second, as if he didn't understand. But then he exploded with anger. "What?" he screamed at her. "Canceled? What do you mean canceled? I already bought my ticket. How can you just cancel?" The woman behind the counter pressed some more buttons on her keyboard. "It looks like there was something wrong with the plane after it landed, and it wouldn't be safe to fly until it was repaired. So all flights on that plane for the rest of the day were canceled. I'm sorry that it's so last minute, sir, but like I said, I can put you on another flight later today." But the man interrupted her, shouting, "No, you don't understand. I can't be late. I have to take this flight. How can you just do this to someone? I'm a paying passenger. This is outrageous." He continued to scream at her for several minutes. He kept repeating, "I need to get on that flight." And his voice was getting louder and louder. The woman behind the counter kept trying to apologize and explain that she could still get him to his destination just later in the day, but he just kept getting louder. His face was red and his hands were shaking. The woman could tell that he was only getting more and more angry the more she tried to calm him down. He was starting to cause quite a scene. Nearly everyone in the check-in area was staring at him, which only seemed to make him more angry. The woman knew that if he didn't calm down soon, she would have to call security. But before that happened, she decided to try something else. And that one decision immediately changed everything. This time, when the man repeated, "I can't be late, I have to get on this flight," she calmly said a single word to him. She asked him, "Why?" The question stopped him short. It was like he wasn't expecting it and wasn't really ready with an answer. So he stopped shouting and thought for a second or two. Some of the redness started to leave his face, and he finally just responded with, "What? Why is it so important that you make it onto this flight?" the woman asked, sensing the change in his emotions. Her idea was working. She continued asking, "Is there a reason you can't wait until the later flight?" At this, the man just stared at her. "Do you really want to know? It's a long story." His voice was quiet now. He sounded less angry and more just exhausted and defeated. The woman smiled and tapped at her keyboard. "I get my break in about 10 minutes. Want to meet me at the coffee shop over there and we can talk about it? I've gone ahead and booked you on the later flight, so you've got the time. But I'd like to hear your story." The man just nodded and walked off without another word. But even from behind the counter, She could see that he was headed towards the coffee shop that she had pointed out to him. The woman checked in a few more customers, and then it was time for her break. She headed to the coffee shop, ordered a latte, and sat down in front of the man. He was already nursing a cappuccino, and it looked like he had been crying a little. She took a moment to introduce herself, and then asked again why he was in such a hurry. Through silent tears, the man explained that he was on his way to his mother's funeral, which was later today. His mother had been ill for a while, but he was away on business when she passed away, and he only just found out about the funeral yesterday. The man was upset that he hadn't been there for her when she died, and now he was going to miss the funeral too because of the canceled flight. He explained how he had become a very successful businessman, but that meant that he was always away from his family. He worried that his mother had resented him being gone all the time, and so he felt guilty about not being there for her when she was sick. "I'm really sorry for the way I acted back there," he said softly. "I was being a real jerk, huh?" The woman smiled warmly at him over her cup of coffee. "It's okay," she said. "I get it. And I'm sure your mother was proud of you. After all, not everyone can start and run a successful business. I'm sure she understood that it meant you having to be away. I completely understand your frustration about the canceled flight. I'm really sorry. I wish there was something I could do to help." Just then, she got an idea. "Well, there was one thing. Hang on a second." She pulled out her phone and sent out a quick text message. When her phone buzzed with a reply a few moments later, she smiled broadly and then started to explain. "See, there is another flight leaving for your destination this morning, and you'd only be about a half an hour late. Would that be enough time to make it to the funeral?" He looked at her puzzled. "It would. It would be plenty of time," he said. "But how does that help me if the flight is full?" "Well," she replied, "sometimes we have passengers who buy a ticket but then don't show up. I sent a text to a friend who works at that airline, and she told me that they have a no-show, which means that they have an open seat. I'll transfer your ticket from my desk, and if you hurry, you should make it over there before they take off." The man stared at her in disbelief. "Really? Wow, I can't thank you enough." "It's okay," the woman replied with a grin. "Technically, it's my job to check you in for a flight, but I'm glad I was able to help. Now hurry up or you'll miss that one too." The man laughed and thanked her again before racing over to the terminal. Within a few hours, he had landed at his destination and was surrounded by his loving family, who was glad that he came. And it was all thanks to a stranger who cared enough to ask him, why? If you like this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And make sure you turn on the notification bell. We'll see you in the next story.